Hello, welcome to my channel, Save Infinity. So in this video, I just wanted to do a quick little brief reminder of the whole, like you are the source sort of idea and of this reality, being like a matrix type reality, if you will, kind of like the Matrix movies, if you will, or being like a dream in those sort of aspects as well. This life is like a dream in many ways as well. And so in that aspect, the importance of your own energy, being like an input to that sort of, matrix reality or dream, if you will, very similar to the dreams we have when we go to sleep at night. If you go to sleep at night really stressed and worried or full of fear or what have you, then a lot of those times, the dreams that you'll experience when you go to sleep that night will be more of, like a nightmarish type experience. Whereas if you're going to sleep when you're feeling really, calm and relaxed, then you're more likely to have a peaceful, pleasant dream. Reality can work in a very similar way as well, where, our nervous system or thoughts and just sort of, general energetic state, mind, body, soul, sort of, level is at that sort of, energies like inputting into the output, we receive back many times. So, kind of with that idea of how they, say with a mirror, not trying to, control things so much from an external point, trying to fix or change things externally, but, more focusing on your internal state to have, even more, powerful and effective results. Kind of like when you're looking at your reflection in a mirror, there's no point trying to, do the makeup on your reflection or, chop the hair and cut the hair and do a new hairstyle on the reflection on the mirror. You've got to, do it to yourself to change that reflection. So it's, kind of like that aspect of going to sleep at night and having a dream, depending on, how your sort of energy is, can really impact whether you have, more of a nightmare experience or more of a dream, pleasant dream experience. And reality kind of working in those sort of similar ways of how it's, all like one reality with, infinite potentials and perspectives. And so, the idea of heaven and hell are just kind of different, mindsets or different, energetic perspectives or wavelengths or what have you within that one reality, just, different ends of the spectrum. And so, if you want a more sort of pleasant sort of reality experience, just the same as, having a dream compared to a nightmare, or even, not even just in that aspect of, before you go to sleep, calming yourself down more and relaxing, your body and mind to have a more pleasant sleeping experience. Even in the aspect of, if you find yourself caught in a nightmare, usually the best thing to do to change your nightmare back to a more pleasant dream or to wake yourself up or what have you is to, to kind of, recognize, oh, it's just a nightmare sort of happening and calming yourself down, right? To kind of calm that dream state back into, more pleasant experiences rather than, getting all caught up in the nightmare storyline, which can be such a similar way for this, reality we find ourselves in too, rather than getting so caught up and locked into the more, hellish or nightmarish scenarios that could, be going on, or just not so great or pleasant experiences that could be happening, rather than, buying so much into that narrative and putting so much energy and effort into that narrative, instead focusing on kind of, detaching a little bit, taking that step back and just calming, your own inner state and body and mind and everything, and down, your nervous system, releasing that, fear and stress and tension, to then allow that, energy input to create a more pleasant output being reflected back to you. Obviously, obviously sounds a lot more simpler, just talking about it than it can be many times, actually putting it into practice, especially when you're not used to, perceiving things such a way or being mindful of such things and what have you. But, just thought it could be, a helpful little reminder for those sort of things and for these sort of, energetic occurrences and the way our, reality kind of interacts with us in those ways. And why it really, can be so important to, really focus on calming your nervous system and, relaxing and releasing stress and tension and keeping a more, clearer, calmer mind and what have you in those aspects. Not only does it help make your internal experience feel a lot better, like a bit more relaxed and calm, and more, more pleasant experience to have within your body, within your vessel. When you are feeling, calm and relaxed, it's like, a bit more like floating on a cloud rather than, walking over glass or something. But also the impactful sort of outcome it can have on your external experience as well, that it's really affecting so much more, and our energy in that way is so much more powerful and impactful to not only our internal state but our external experiences as well, than we tend to kind of just like consciously realize from a little human 3D perspective. Sometimes those really sort of more simple sort of things, getting back to those basics of just calming your nervous system and being more relaxed and freeing your mind and those sort of things really can just impact so much more than you may kind of realize. And so as well, just like a dream in that sense, not feeling like you need to get so caught up in any sort of loops that aren't so pleasant to be experiencing. You don't have to buy into any narratives per se, and can treat it a bit more fluid, like a dream, in that sense of actually I'm going to step back, away, detach away from this, calm myself down and kind of allow a new sort of experience or narrative to flow my way instead, rather than taking everything so rigid and seriously in that sort of sense. And it can just stress you out more than is necessary. Life is like a dream in that sense, so you can just keep flowing down the stream, merrily, life is like a dream. So just you can just keep rowing and flowing down that stream. You don't have to stay bogged in that swamp. Sometimes reality can make it seem like you have to stay here in this swamp because this is reality and this is the way things are, but really it's more like a dream and an infinite matrix where we can just bob and weave into different scenarios and experiences and just keep flowing and rowing down that stream. And in that sense as well, it's almost like just remembering that your own sort of internal state almost is affecting and connected to the water you're flowing down. And so if you're really stressed and worried, then you're more likely to have really intense rapids swishing you around and flipping your boat over, whereas if you're more calm and relaxed, then you're more likely to have just really calm flowing waters that are gently guiding you along. All right, well, I'll leave this quick little just reminder or rehash, if you will, here for now. Hope you've got something from it or helped in some way. But as always, wishing you all the best on your journey and sending you so much peace, love, light and blessings as always. Bye.